Fly without boarding pass. Couldn't catch me, I be moving fast. Call me a shooting star. Let 'em know who you are. Flying up in a bar. Wish on a star. Time to show 'em who's in charge. Call me a shooting star. Didn't even get to cross. I said I'm moving too far. Get to glass. Looking at a shooting star. Got more than a couple of people going mad. I swear they're rooting hard. Tell them I be big in the game like she went and got them breast implants. I said I'm moving too fast. Didn't even get to glance. I'm ready to eat up track like I'm seated in a restaurant. If you had swag like mine, you know it's best to flaunt. We aren't hating because you aren't. Shining like it's neon. Rock like kings of Leon. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Shooting stars across the galaxy. I stand out, so don't be mad at me. Infiltrate, I'm with my strategy. When I turn up, then I just have to leave. Yeah, shoot, yeah, shoot, yeah, shooting, yeah, shooting shots. Shooting stars. Didn't even get to cross.
The first thing we look for, Robbie, Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away, Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away.
Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to Tottenham Away. STEL and Matt, or Matt and STEL, whichever way you prefer. We're back. It's Friday, our second show. Matt, how you doing, my man?
Yeah, really good, STEL. Yeah, really good, mate. Good week. Just looking forward to going through this show, the highs and lows, and hopefully 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah, fingers crossed, 3 points tomorrow. Good to see you're looking well and fresh, as always. Quick big up to everyone watching. Quick hello to everyone in the chat. Christian, Totspurs, Huddersfield Town. Big up to you. Ian. We've got Aqua subs. How you doing? Rob, Frank, Benjamin. This is a new one. Miss TC Hotspur. Hi. First time recognizing you in the chat. We've got Norman Stanley Fletcher. How you doing? Lee, one of our own. Big up to Lee. Spurs 72 Conrad from the USA. How you doing? Daniela's in the house. How you doing, Daniela? Hope you are well. And to everyone else who joins us as the show goes on, great to have you all with us on a Friday. Matt, so where are we going to start today? Well, I'll tell you where we're going to start today. I wanted to get your opinion on something that we discussed last week. that you weren't part of the show of to have your say, but I want you to have a say on this because this is something that's been a bit of a conversation and a debate amongst a number of Spurs fans in recent weeks, and I think it's linked to not results but performance on the eyes. And I think this tweet is a bit extreme, but it sums up where some fans are at. A win is a win, but Angie's game management stinks. I mean, for me, that's harsh, but at the moment, who cares? Because we've just won. And then someone replies saying, rank again, worrying to be honest. Now, that's an extreme tweet. But with regards to Angie's game management, do you think that's one of the key drivers that is making Spurs fans think that we're not performing well, or we're getting lucky, or we don't necessarily deserve to win some games? And what's your thinking on it regards to Angie game management?
Yeah, I think it's been such an up and down season with injuries and people that are not been available. It's been difficult to know what his game management is because he's kind of been restricted in what he can do because of obviously we've had so many injuries and such a lack of choice. But I can kind of see what a couple of those comments are referring to, which is the period of the game that he took Kulu off. He was actually starting to play quite well. So that individually was a strange substitution. But then to caveat that, his replacement, who was having a shocker, pops up and scores the winner. Yeah. So, I remember the Champions League final against Liverpool. Divock Origi, the only thing he did in the game is score that second goal. But he was awful in the rest. He missed controlling it. He was offside. And he pops up and scores the second goal. So he's a Liverpool legend. So to kind of answer your point, I kind of see what some of the comments are referring to because we almost lost our momentum when he made those substitutions because normally you get the equaliser, you're at home, the crowd are lifted, we kind of camped in their half, and it was almost when he made the substitutions, it took 5 or 10 minutes for the players to kind of get up to speed, and we lost that. We had a stranglehold in the game, and we lost that with those substitutions. But he's probably, from Postecoglou's point of view, he's probably thinking, look, all of a sudden I've got wide players, attacking players, midfield players I can bring on and impact the game. And it looked like Brighton looked like they ran out of steam that last 10 minutes of the game. So I can kind of see what Postecoglou's trying to do, but I thought he could have kept Kulu on. I thought Kulu was having a really good 15, 20 minute spell.
Yeah, I agree. I thought taking Kulu off was not the right move because he played a wonderful through ball to Sarr, who scored the goal, the equaliser, and Kulu was getting into the game. Matt, with managers, okay, we don't really know how fit a player is or if there's any underlying niggling injuries because you're not going to publicly come out and say, Kulu and Maddison have both got injuries, but they can still play, because then you're effectively saying to the other team, right, try and put a heavy tackle on them, see if they can be forced to sub the player, right? So we're privy to this kind of information. Do you think there's players at the moment that are coming off? For example, when Maddison and Bentancur came off against Everton and on came Højbjerg and Skip and the kind of the midfield went from there, and then even taking Kulu off. I'm not trying to defend Ange. I'm just asking the question. Do you feel that there's some players that are being taken off maybe to protect them, maybe because there is an underlying niggle in the ankle or the knee, maybe the fitness isn't quite there for whatever reason? Do you think this is part of the process that Ange is having to manage when he's making these subs that we question?
Yeah, I think we obviously don't have medical data to look at. So just as the fan, there's that frustration. Oh, why is he taking Udogie? I mean, at the time I thought, was he took Udogie off? But we now know that he had a knock. So some of this is kind of retrospect commenting. So I'm guessing with players like Maddison, Adoji, they've had interrupted minutes. So I think from a medical point of view, they're probably saying Maddison, 70 minutes, he's then in the red zone. Just be careful with his, you don't want to overload his work. So yeah, the medical data is something we never know, but I'm guessing Postecoglou's got that in his mind when he makes some of his tactical decisions. But for me, it's just nice now that we've got players like Basuma and Lo Celso, fingers crossed, that can come on with 15 minutes to go, and the drop off is not as significant as it would be with Skip or Højbjerg.
Yeah, Højbjerg, Brian Gill. Do you know if Lo Celso or Solomon are back now, or are they still injured?
Lo Celso's back. Lo Celso's trained last week and this week, so I think he's had 10 days into his legs. I think Solomon is still not actually training, so I think he's a little bit further back. But I think like Sessegnon, I would imagine this time next week, Sessegnon will be looking at on the subs bench. So I think we just sometimes at the time, I mean, I was like, why is he taking the Dojo off? But I get it now that obviously he's carrying a knock and we have to be careful with injuries. So Porro's a perfect example. Porro's played non-stop and it's a physical exertion, and Postecoglou's system is so demanding that, we definitely need reinforcements in the summer.
Well, when you think about the fact that this season we're only going to play 41 games, 38 league games, 2 FA Cup games, 1 Carabao Cup game. We are going to be in Europe next season. That's a minimum another 6 games, possibly 8, 10 games. So now that takes us to 50 games next season. If we progress in the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, now you're looking at 55. If you do well in the competition, 60 games. Just to maintain what we're doing, we need additions because of the more games we're going to play. And this was my kind of argument I had with someone last week, where I'm saying to them, for us to push on, just to maintain what we're doing now with the extra games, we need reinforcements. If we want to push on, we need even more reinforcements. So where some fans saying, 3-4 more players, will be there. No way. We need 7-8 more players. We need to get real about this. I mean, do you agree, Matt? We need about 7 or 8 more players.
Yeah, I think
players as well. Good players.
I think if you look at what in the last couple of windows, we've brought in 6 or 7 players. Forget January, but normally in the summer. So I'm guessing that he will certainly be looking for a similar number. And I think because hopefully we're going to go further in the cup competitions next season, that's going to extend our season. So, yeah, I think the young kid from Sweden, I think he's there to be involved next season. I don't think he's been signed for the under-21s. I think he'll be involved next season. So I think, if you look, Lo Celso's barely played, Brian Hill's barely played. If you replace them with players that are actually going to play, we're not too far away. It's just that the extreme has been Brian Hill, Lo Celso, barely played any football, and we need their equivalents to be able to play.
See, I would probably look to keep Lo Celso, although my only concern is his injury record. That's the reason why I would sell him if I did sell him, because I feel when Lo Celso, pre-season, Lo Celso was one of my favourite players, I thought. And when he got called in, when we had the kind of mini injury crisis, I thought Lo Celso was one of our top performers, creating goals, some unbelievable through balls to the forward line, scoring big goals. That cracker he scored at Man City away, he scored the equaliser against Villa. So I would look to try and keep Lo Celso, and there's things he does that we forget as well. For example, that terrible game away to Wolves. Funnily enough, we're playing Wolves this weekend, where we lost 2-1 at 1-1. Or no, at 1-0, edge of the box, Lo Celso an unbelievable curling effort, top corner, and the goalie made a brilliant save. I mean, that goes in, it's 2-0. So, I don't know, I'm 50-50 with Lo Celso, Matt. His injury
I like the Celso. I like the
His-
Celso.
yeah.
I would keep the Celso. I think the only reason I reference the Celso is come the summer, he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. That's the only reason that that's the worry.
Do you extend or do you sell? Do you cash in or do you extend?
That's he's 27. I personally, if you look at his numbers, I think it's something like 10 games, 2 goals, 2 assists. It's something like that. And if you look at the games he's played in, it's Man City, it's Aston Villa. He's turned up in big games. So I don't think there's any normal football fan that would say that it's not an ability question. I don't think anyone could question Lo Celso's ability. I think
it's a medical
sometimes
one.
it's a medical question. But look, from what I understand, the Argentinian, the South American contingent are all very close, and I think he feels a little bit more engaged this season. So wouldn't it be fantastic if we can get Maddison for 70 minutes in games, and you can then bring on Lo Celso in that last key half an hour of football matches where the game is stretched and he can start to, thread players through on goal. So I think we could do a lot worse to keep Lo Celso.
See, those stats are interesting because one of my criticisms for Timo, Brennan, and even Richarlison is that against the top 9 teams, they go missing. I think Richie's turned up in 2 games. Brennan's turned up in 1 game. Timo's turned up in 1. But the only player that consistently turns up with goals and assists in the big games, the top 9 games this season, have been Heung-min Son and Pedro Porro. They consistently turn up in those games. I don't know about Maddison because he's missed so many of those games through injury. But the 1 game we do know he played in Arsenal, he got 2 assists. So I think Maddison is a player that will turn up in those games. Also, in defense of Timo, he's only been here for 5 games, so I can't quite judge him on that metric yet. But if Lo Celso is a player that turns up in those games, Matt, there's an argument to say we need to keep him because that's what we're lacking. We don't turn up. Yes, there's key players that don't turn up in those games.
Yeah, look, there is a. I try to be as objective as possible. There is a reasonable point that he's been with us 4 or 5 seasons and la 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 la. But what I would like to say is, if you look at the style of football that we play, and you look at the impact that Big Ange has had on players that weren't quite at the level, and I reference Ben Davies, I reference Richarlison. If you look at how he's improved, how they actually impact football matches now, I would argue that if you can get Lo Celso anywhere near 70, 80% of football matches this season and next season, we've got a great foil for Maddison. Great foil for him. And that's what we need. I'm not saying we don't go and, sign another attacking box-to-box midfielder, but we could do worse than keep Lo Celso.
Well, I think we need 3 because you've got cups, you've got the league, and you've got Europe. So you need to rotate. If one gets injured, you've still got 2, which means you can still rotate. And if one's just having a bad game, you've got the sub to bring on. I think we need 3 if we're going to be serious. If we're a serious team that wants to win silverware, I think 3 is the optimal number. I think more than that, it's too many. Less than that, you're playing that game of, well, we're all right as long as we don't get injuries, which is kind of what blighted us this season. Okay. So the next topic I wanted to chat to you about. This is going to be an interesting one. So Timo Werner, there was news speculating around saying that RB Leipzig expect Spurs to trigger the buy clause and for Spurs to sign Timo this summer. Now, I don't know how RB Leipzig are expecting that because he's only played 5 games. How can you assess the player? But there you go. That's the media for you. But there's a couple of things I wanted to share with you. So there's a lot here to dissect, Matt. Okay. So the first one is this social media tweet. Even though Timo's doing a job, long-term solution, I do not think is the answer. But signing up on a permanent, we get to really know the obligation where Levy wants to go as a club. So what he's saying here is, if we do sign Timo, that's Levy speaking volumes as to the direction he wants to take us. Can we all now see as fans what it is with this club? Levy only puts just enough for us to compete. So what he's saying is, and it's just his view, if we sign Timo, that's not the direction of a club that wants to win silverware. It's kind of the easy, cheapo, just enough to keep top four. I did a poll. I said he plays in the front three. He's played every game since January. He's played 5 games, 4 league, 1 in the cup. He hasn't scored any goals. If we sign him, is it a sign of ambition, same old, or regression? There was 400 votes on YouTube. The majority said same old. And on Twitter, the exact same poll, slightly different, but again, the majority said same old. So the general vibe I get is that if we sign Timo, it's not a step forward. It's not a step back. It's what do you make of Timo if we sign him, Matt? Is this the direction for us to go in? Is this a sign of intent? Is it worth having him as a squad player, or are there better options? How do you view it?
Yeah, I think Timo Werner is a footballer that has been he's been to the top. You know, he's played international football. He's performed in Champions League finals. He's been a highly sought after footballer. But for me, I think he has hit that mental block on scoring goals. I think it's a mental thing now. I think he struggles in front of goal. He panics in front of goal. And I think for Tottenham, I don't see any future in Timo Werner on a contract for Tottenham going forward. I will give a pass.
Why not, Matt?
On the side.
Why not? Why do you not see that?
Because I think we've hired a recruitment team that are there to look into the market, data driven. And that's what confuses me with the Timo Werner, because if we're looking at data, if we're looking at stats, so that's how I'm led to believe that's more important than the eye test. They collate information, kilometers run, successful dribbles, input, output with the ball, without the ball. At what sense does the computer shoot out the name Timo Werner? You know, his stats are, in my opinion,
on the financial budget metric. That's
yes, yeah,
the price.
yeah. But if you're doing, you know, a computer generated, find me the top 10 players that can play down the middle, left and right.
Who's available under 5 million?
Who's available?
Yeah.
The negotiations aren't going to take long because we needed to move quickly because it was January and we had the Asia and the AFCONs. I don't understand how the computer shoots out Timo Werner.
Matt, can I jump in on this a second?
Go on.
Right. So my understanding of data analytics is a little bit different. You're looking for a player for a position, and then there's maybe 15, 20, 30 players, however many it is. What the computer does is it narrows it down to, let's say, 3.
Okay.
So these are the 3 that meet all the metrics that hit the target of what you want to bring to the club. And then the recruitment team, the scouts, they will go out and look at those players. The club will contact the agents to find if the player's available. But the computer will also say, look, out of the 3, sign player A. And then the scouts will go out there and say, right, the computer's right. We confirm that player A is what the eyes see. Or what the scouts will do is they'll say, we need to look at player B over A because we've seen this, this, and this. Because the one thing stats don't do, they don't measure emotion. How you react to moments and pressure and certain opposition, adversity.
Yeah.
How you control moments when you're on the up. Do you maintain that up or do you crumble? So I think both go hand in hand. But what a computer does, it narrows down the pool. So you focus your energy and your time on what you're actually going to sign rather than trying to sift through 20 players that the computer's brought up. That's what I'm led to believe. So the computer takes you from 20 players to 3, and the scouts will come in and say, look, this is where we're at. And then someone makes a decision. Sometimes as well, though, agents will pick up the phone, call the club and say, look, I've got this player. He's looking for a club.
Move.
He's happy to go on loan if you want to do that, because agents will know what clubs are looking for as well, because people like Paratici, they'll put the word out there. We'll inform people that we're kind of looking for these kind of players. Keep us posted. There's a lot of communication that goes on. But regarding the computer bit, the stats, I don't think it's 100% the computer says no, the computer says yes. I think the computer sifts through the data so that the energy and time we spend on actual eye testing is more fine-tuned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does for sure. I think the point with that is, if you look at why they've done it, it was a quick deal. You know, the deal happened in something like 5 days, and I don't know if you saw some of Werner's interview, but he says that Spurs contacted him and he didn't respond. So when they first contacted him, whether that be in December, he was like, "No, I'm going to stay at Leipzig and try and get back in the team." And then Spurs called the second, and I think Spurs called the third time, and that's when he was like, "Wow, this club is serious. They really want me." And that's when he said to his agent, "Right, find out what the deal is," and da 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 da. So that means we went after him. You know, we went after him a couple of times before he said yes. So where I thought it was his agent that was touting him around clubs to try and see if they could get him a club, it sounds like we went after him. So it would be, in my opinion, it would be a backward step if we signed him permanently. And what I mean by backward step is he's got attributes. I'm not saying he's an awful footballer. He has attributes, but we need to improve. We need to change. So if we sign Werner, for me, it's another once in a blue moon footballer. You know, he'll score a goal once in a blue moon. He'll make an assist once in a blue moon.
It's what.
Hello?
Sorry, I got kicked out of my own show. I don't know what happened.
Don't worry. Don't worry.
For me, I don't see it as a backward step or a forward step. I just see it as a same old, which is what pretty much the poll, all the polls that we ran, that was pretty much the response. For those of you that have just joined us, we ran a poll on this, and the majority of fans on Twitter and on YouTube that voted, they all said, yeah, same old. Just to finish up on the Timo Werner situation, you shared this with me, which I had to clearly put up on today's show. Again, it's media speculation, guys. Please don't lose your minds. Postecoglou is an admirer of Neto from Wolves. He's considering adding another forward to his squad this summer. Wolves want a club record of about 60 million plus for Neto. Spurs for Neto depends on whether they activate Werner's buy option, meaning it's one or the other. Right. No brainer for me. I'm not even going to give you an answer, but Matt, if you've got a choice between signing Timo for 15 million and signing Pedro Neto for 60 million, you're Postecoglou. What do you want?
I think
Timo Werner. Okay, great. Timo Werner. Good.
Yeah. Too. You get Timo Werner and with an option to extend as well. No, it's Neto every day of the week. The Tottenham press conference today, he was very clever. I don't know if you saw it, Postecoglou. So he talks about what do you expect from Wolves and whatever. And he kind of says, he almost says Neto, but he just says they've obviously got outstanding 1v1. It's obviously Neto he's talking about, but he doesn't use his name. So it sounds like he's a huge fan of him. And we have to bid, whether we get him, whether he goes to somebody else, but surely we have to be in with a shout, because he's a player that will take us closer to where we want to be.
What about concerns that he is somewhat injury prone? Is that something that will kind of weigh in on the decision?
Yes and no. I think I was doing some digging on him the other day, and 178 games he's been available for, and he's missed 95 of them through injury. That's his Wolves career. So, he misses a lot of football. But he's still only 23. He's still only 23, so maybe a different style of football, it may assist him. But yeah, he certainly has. I think do the maths. He misses like nearly 50% of the matches through injury.
See, it's another Maddison.
Yeah,
player, exciting player, wins you games, takes you up a level, but misses 2, 3, 4 months of a season. See that Spurs do need to consider that, because that period we went through of injuries, we can't keep being hit with that, because that effectively is what will cost you in the end if you haven't got your best players available and you haven't got the quality to come off the bench because they're injured as well.
Well, this is what I mean with reference to Timo, that we have to change. We have to change our model, and we need options. So ideally, when you spend 50, 60 million on Neto, he's one of several. So when he does have injuries or loss of form or suspension, the ship still sails. We still go in the same direction. At the moment, when we pick up a significant injury to a main player of Tottenham, it shows. And that's what we need to get away from. And that's the next step for Tottenham. He's only had 2 transfer windows, but I'm sure his end goal is to make Tottenham competitive on the pitch and competitive on the bench as well.
Do you know what, Matt? If you gave me, because I've just been thinking about this as you're speaking, if you gave me a 50% fit Neto, so I always see, this is something that a lot of fans get really angry with me and frustrated, and they lose track of the debate, because I come from a place of logic, not emotion. When I'm playing football, it's emotion and passion and heart with me. When I'm watching the game, it's a place of 50% emotion, 50% logic. When it comes to shows like this, I'm all logic. I rarely get emotional, unless someone really winds me up, and then I get emotional. But if I come at this from a place of logic, if you gave me a 50% fit Neto and a fully fit Timo Werner, I'm taking Neto. And let me explain the logic here. Werner's played 5 games so far, league and cup. He went missing against Brighton. He went missing against Man City in the FA Cup, and he went missing away to Everton. So that's 50% of games he's gone missing. So if we miss Pedro Neto for 50% of the games, they're now tied, because when Timo does play, half the time he's not here. So who do I want in the 50% of the games they're both here for? I want Neto, because he's a better player. Can you argue that logic?
No, I can see you thinking, but yeah, I mean, to caveat Timo, he came in his first game against Man United away. It's a tough fixture. That's a tough gig.
Got an assist.
And he got an assist. Mm-hmm. And that's your first game. So that's
It was a mid-table Man United, though. I do want to say it was a mid-table
Yeah.
Man United with injuries galore. But we
but-
had a lot of injuries too. We had a lot as well.
but still at Old Trafford is when you go through the fixtures at the start of the season, there's certain games that you think, that could be a tough fixture. Old Trafford away. So his first game was then he played against Kyle Walker at Man City, which, let's be honest, there's very few get the better side of him. And by the way, I'm not a big fan of Timo, so just in case. But for me, I just think we need to say thank you very much in the summer to Timo and move on. I would look at Neto. I would look at Neto for sure. But I also agree with some of the comments in there. He should be in a list of players. I don't think he should be the only target, but I think we should be in the conversation to try and sign him.
Right. Let me ask you this question. What if Timo Werner was to score 6 or 7 goals between now and the end of the season and get another 4 or 5 assists? Does that change the conversation, Matt?
Good question. I'm still not a Timo fan. I don't think that's changed. I'm not a fan of Timo, but if you post those numbers, you got to look at it. What can't speak can't lie. If those numbers end up there, you got to look at it.
He deserves at least a squad place, then, right? At least a squad place.
Okay, let me turn it another way then. Would you look at him or Brian Hill? If you've got to keep one in your squad for next season, if you've got to, Hill or Timo?
You got to keep. See, right. This is the issue I've got with this question, because this is something Will Stewart brought up. Has Brian Hill been given the opportunities that Timo has? Because Timo started every game since he's been here. Has Brian Hill been given that opportunity? I don't think
under any manager, no. Under any manager. How many managers has he had? 4? 3?
He came in under
Nuno,
yeah. So it's Nuno, Conte. Was Nuno after Jose? No, Jose was after, wasn't he? Oh, Conte was after. So Nuno, Conte, Mason, Stellini, and just
now,
5.
And he hasn't had a run in any of those managers.
I can't answer that. I can't answer that because you'd probably say Timo because he's more experienced and he has got some assists. You'd probably say Timo if we're judging just by what we've seen. But then Brian Hill, he hasn't really been given the same game time. See, you see Brennan Johnson, if Brian Hill was given that many games and those many minutes in so many games, what kind of Brian Hill would we have? Because Brennan's been given a lot of game time compared to Brian Hill.
Yeah, I just think...
Not that I'm defending Brian Hill, by the way, people, because I personally think he's not the answer either. Just to clarify, I don't think he's the answer.
I just think physicality. I just think he struggles with the phicality of the Premier League. And it really seems like it's an effort, just to keep possession of the ball. It's like it's like a 12-year-old playing in a Sunday league match against men. He's neat and tidy. You can see he's very skilled. He's got good technical ability. But the moment it's a duel, the moment there's a physical interaction, 9 times out of 10 he comes second. So that's a difficult problem to fix. How do you? He's not a Silva. He's not Bernardo Silva. There've been small, impish Luka Modric footballers before, but he just doesn't have that DNA to be able to fend challenges or to interact in physical challenges. So I just think he's just the wrong profile of footballer for the Premier League. He'll probably go back to Real Sociedad and have a really good football career, but I just don't think he's built for the Premier League.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Matt. And just to answer this question from Mark, Still, with your logic, if we sign Neto, who would be his backup? Werner? No, Solomon. Solomon's the backup.
There you go. Similar frame to Brian Hill, but he's just got that physicality. He can withstand the challenge. He can rise challenges.
He's a little bit more stockier.
He's just got that profile. You know, you've seen it a million times. You feel like if you give the ball to Brian Hill, anytime he's in close proximity to a player, he's going to get it taken off him. So that's why I can see the logic why no managers played him for more than a half.
Yeah. It's just I just sometimes wish certain players were given more game time so we can actually really see what they're about. But again, look, like we said earlier, we don't know what medical information the managers have got. By the same logic, we don't know what is going on in training and what the managers see in training. If Brian Hill's getting pushed off the ball in training, he's probably thinking, I can't really play you in a match then. Because here we're friends. In the match, we're not friends. And it's going to be even more physical. But look, the big subject, the big discussion is the breaking news that the left and the right back are out of action against Wolves.
Yeah.
And the man we're talking about, Pedro Neto, is going to be up against one of those players. So, look, the good news is they're not out long term. We don't have a game for 2 weeks after Wolves. There's a 2 week break because the game against Chelsea has been postponed because they're in the Carabao Cup next weekend. And the first game back is against Crystal Palace, who are in the mud. Yep, they've signed a really good manager and there will be some kind of bounce, but they've got key players injured, Crystal Palace. So even with the injuries to our wing backs, I still expect us to beat Crystal Palace. We have got better players than them and we're at home. So I think we can survive 2-3 weeks without the two wing backs. Fingers crossed. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to find out. But it's not bad news, but we'd rather have them now than not. So look, Matt, with Porro and Udogie out, the big question is, who do you start? So do you go to the typical go-to of Davies and Emerson Royale? Or do you put Davies left back and play Dragusin right back, who has played there for Genoa in some games? Or do you play Emerson at right back, move Van der Ven to the left back role and bring in Dragusin as the centre back? Or do you have another option? And bear in mind, no matter what we do, with the exception of maybe Emerson at right back, we will lose that attacking threat going up the wings. We won't be as good on the attacking sense. So what would you do, Matt? And in the chat, what's your choice here? How would you play it? What would you do?
Yeah, I have to be honest. I've not seen Dragusin play at right back. The brief matches I saw him play was as a either centre half or right-sided centre half. But people that are in the know kind of say that he can play right back as well. I think you go with the usual suspects. I think you go with Emerson Royal and Ben Davies. Simply, they've played that position. They've been in regular training now since Davies had a tweak on his hamstring, so they are match sharpish. They know the system. Different profile of footballer, though. They're not as athletic. They're not as gifted in the final third. They're a little bit more conservative, which might help us a little bit because I think with more so Udogie, but Porro as well, they empty that box, that left back box on every attack. You know, they're in the final third and they're pressing and they're trying to create. I think with Emerson Royal and Ben Davies, I think they're more so Ben Davies is conscious of his lack of pace. So I think if you made a comment, I don't know if it was the last show or the show before, but you made a comment that when we had Ben Davies and whether it was Royal or whoever playing, we didn't look as exposed. Can you remember? You made, was it last show or the show before? You made some comment about it,
I said we can't play out from the back as well with Davies.
Right. And I think Ben Davies, I think he knows his limitations. So I think he makes sure, he's not too far forward because he struggles to get back.
All right, Matt, let me throw something at you that a lot of fans have been talking about. Some fans have said play Van de Ven at left back. Almost like Jan Vertonghen did for us against Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League. And the reason being, Pedro Neto plays on that wing and he's quick and he's good. And
yes.
Ben Davies is going to get roasted. And we saw against Crystal Palace away this season what happens with Ben Davies at left back against pace. He gets absolutely slaughtered and he got
exposed.
Right. What's your thinking on that? Why would you not do that?
Because why make two changes when you only need to make one?
To nullify their biggest threat, which is Pedro Neto.
Yes, but I just think we've in the ascendancy. We're at home. We're on a rich vein of form. Let's impose our style, our will, our way of football on them. So let's take the ball by the horns and let's play in their half. Yes, he's a threat. He's a threat. And you probably say to Van de Ven, listen, just keep a half a glance on Ben Davies. Keep half a glance, but impose our will on them. We're at home.
For me, I would keep Van de Ven in the middle. And the reason being is, do you remember when we had a problem with the 4-3, with the 3-4-3 Conte system where we didn't have enough creativity in the middle and fans were saying, put Kane there, he's the best creator. And then the argument would be, why are you taking your best player out of his best position to put a square peg in a round hole? Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And I would say the same applies. Why are you taking one of your best centre-backs out of his best position to cover a gap? Because whoever comes in will slightly weaken that position now. So when Kane drops into the attacking mid, you're now slightly weakening whoever goes forward because Kane was the best player there. I would keep Van de Ven where he is because that's what he does best. And even if Pedro Neto does get some joy in the left, he's still got to come in at some point and Van de Ven will be there. So it's not like Van de Ven can't have any kind of say in the matter. I am massively worried about Ben Davies at left back against Neto, though. He will get roasted. There's no doubt. I don't know what you do.
Yeah,
what about if you put Emerson Royal at left back and then Dragusin slots into the right back role?
Again, you're making two changes where you only need to make one. Play Emerson Royal in his position at right back. Yeah. Play Ben Davies at left back with the template. Listen, you got your hands full today. Whenever it happens, we'll try and get people around you. But we're at home. If you ask me the question, if we're away from home, I would still probably lean towards keeping it the same, but I could see more logic in it away from home where they might have more of the ball and more of the ascendancy. But personally, I think I want us to be on the front foot and let them worry about us. He's a threat. He's a threat for most left backs. Let's get that clear. He's a problem. But, there's no Cunha. I'm not sure who their other threats are. Maybe someone in the chat can say, but there's no Cunha. Yeah, Hwang's back, isn't he? He's fit again.
Yeah, good player.
Hwang's back. Good player. But no, look, let's just focus on us. We're at home. Van de Ven, keep your eye on Ben Davies on a 1v1. Let's put the ball in their bed.
Do you know what I would do tomorrow? But I know he's not going to do it. But I would do it. I'll go through at the back. And that way, Van de Ven, Romero, Dragusin all play in their best position, centre-back. And I would have more players in the middle. So I would play Sarr, Bissouma,
now you've
and I would play Saar, Basuma, Bentancur, and Maddison in a diamond.
Hang on, let me put this down. So you got VDV.
I basically go to a
Romero.
3-4. I'll go to a 3-4-3, Matt. I'll go to a 3-4-3.
So who's your midfield?
Maddison, Bentancur, Basuma, and Pape Sarr.
Yeah,
And you can have Basuma and Sarr being slightly more back. That way you're giving the extra cover to a back three. So if they do attack down the wing, Sarr can go one side to engage because he's a holding mid. And if they attack down the other side, Basuma can go over to engage.
So you got Richie, number 9?
Richie, number 9, Son on the left of the front three, and then Kulu on the right of the front three. Got him thinking. We've got him thinking, people. We've got that thinking.
I don't think he's got a history of playing that formation, though, has he?
Like I said, he's not going to do it. But I remember Martinez. Was he the manager of Wigan? Martinez.
Yes.
I remember the season they won the FA Cup or the League Cup. I think it was the FA Cup. They beat Man City in the final. He played 4-3-3 and he went away to Arsenal. He switched it up and he went to a 3-4-3 and they beat Arsenal at the Emirates. And they played Arsenal not off the park, but they gave him one hell of a game. And he stuck to his philosophy. They still kept possession of the ball. 3-4-3 is just a variation on a 4-3-3, but you're playing it in a slightly different way. That's all you're doing. You're just changing the midfield movement of the ball. I think when you've got both wing backs out that are crucial to you playing out from the back and getting up high into the 10, when you lose your key components and you're now bringing in players that aren't as good at it and don't have the pace for it, I think you should just change it up and just go to a 3-4-3.
Yeah,
We've got the players, Matt. We've got the players fit to do it. We've got the players fit to do it.
Yeah, my only concern with that is that's 2 or 3 changes and change of formation, and players are coming back to some sort of a match fitness.
Yeah, but okay,
I can see what you're thinking,
Matt. Is it any different to when we had all these injury crisis games, and 5 or 6 players had to come in, and we just dealt with it? Just deal with it. Is it not? Is it much different from that?
No. I see what you're saying, but I just think the fact that we're at home, it's going to be a tough game. I'm not discrediting Wolves. I think Wolves are going to be a difficult team to play against. I just think the fact that we're at home, we're on the ascendancy. Let's put our front foot forward and go after them. So theoretically, whether it's Ben Davies or whether it's Emerson Royale, they are technically, that's their position. They're a left back and a right back. Obviously, they're playing inverted, which is slightly different to what they're normally used to, but they are fullbacks. So in actual fact, they've played more football matches out of position than in position, because I don't think either of them are wing backs. So even if we went to a 3 at the back, Ben Davies and Emerson Royal aren't wing backs. So
Ben Davies surprisingly does get quite high up the pitch. Under Conte, we almost went into a lopsided 4-4-2, and Davies, when you look at the heat map, he was quite often quite high up the pitch. So he's not unfamiliar to it. It's his recovery though is going to be the disaster. He gets caught, or we get caught. Yeah.
He just doesn't have over the 90 minutes, he just doesn't have that recovery. He doesn't have that athleticism to get back, especially against somebody like Neto. So the Crystal Palace game earlier in the season was a perfect example. He got, if you remember, Van der Ven had to come over half a dozen times in the first half to kind of cover him. So I can imagine something similar will be tomorrow. But again, I go back to my point that we're at home. Yeah, let's get after them.
Well, look, I'll tell you one thing. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. We'll do our predictions at the end of the show. We're going to find out who Angie's going to start, what system he's going to go with. Look, I think. Go on, Matt.
Okay, so you would do the formation you've just mentioned. What do you think, Ange? I want your 11 that you think Ange is going to pick tomorrow.
He's going to go with his 4-3-3. Vicario in goal. Okay. Ben Romero centre back. Ben Davies and Emerson Royale at left and right back.
Yeah. Midfield.
I think he starts Sarr. He starts Maddison.
Yes.
Basuma or Bentancur. I think he will go with Bentancur. And then the front three for me, this is the most confident out of everything I am. Son, Richie, Kulu. That'll be his front three. He won't start Timo. He won't start Brendan Johnson.
I'll agree with your front three. I'll agree with your front three, and I'll agree with your defence. I think he's going to go with Basuma tomorrow.
Instead of?
Bentancur
dropped. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Here's a stat for you. That midfield three, when they've played more than 45 minutes, have never been on a losing side.
Well, I was going to say, the most success we've had, without looking at the stats, is when Basuma and Sarr played together.
That midfield three, when they've played more than 45 minutes, have never lost in the Premier League.
But that was when Basuma was actually playing really, really good, and he didn't kind of just, underperform.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to find out tomorrow what are the tactics, who's starting in the wing-back role, who's starting in the centre-back role, in the midfield, across the front. You never know with Ange. And he always throws a curveball as well. So expect a curveball. So Brian Hill will start out wide.
Skip will play in the number 8 role. He does always come up with something that you go, huh?
I think he does it so the opposing manager thinks, huh? He tries to throw a curveball for the manager.
Well, I tell you what, we can't sleep on Wolves. Wolves are a good team.
Matt, I said last week when we did our predictions, I said you predicted 2-1 Spurs against Brighton. You got it right. I predicted 2-2. I said, listen, Brighton are good, and I'm not sure about us at the moment. I can see us being a draw, and I was 30 seconds away from being right, but I was wrong in the end. You were right. But I predict. I mean, look, we'll get into prediction at the end because I do want to hear what you think about this one because I've got my thoughts on it as well. Hobie up front. Why not? The last thing I wanted to run past you is this. So, the computer has run its analysis for European spots based on current trends, current results, and games remaining to be played and who they're against, home, away. And what it says is Spurs are 58% odds on to finish 4th. Second is Aston Villa, 35%. And then it's Man United, a very small 6%, which I couldn't believe because they're in good form. Newcastle, 2%. And Brighton, West Ham, Chelsea, the computer said no. And then we are 29% 5th place. Aston Villa, 39%. Man United goes up a bit there, 19%. I won't even bother looking at 6th. But we're odds on, according to the computer, to finish 4th. Matt, when I look at the league table, let me bring up the league table. That's the poll, not the table. There's the table. When I look at the league table, I think it's fair to say that 4th place, if we just make the assumption Liverpool, City and Arsenal will be the top 3. Okay, things can change, but let's just make that assumption for the sake of this conversation. It's between Tottenham, Villa, Man United, and you're probably thinking 9-point swing for Newcastle and Tottenham, Villa, and Man United to all collapse is probably not going to happen. So if we say fourth place is between Tottenham, Villa, and United, I would say Aston Villa are out of it on the basis that Spurs and United don't have Europe. Villa do. And Villa have lost Konsa, one of their best defenders. He's out now. Diego Carlos, he's out for 8 weeks with a hamstring. They've got injuries, big injuries now hitting them. And they're going to have more games to play. And correct me if I'm wrong. No, they're at the FA Cup. They lost to Chelsea. They're out. So they've got Europe and the Premier League. Whereas United and Spurs, they're getting their players back. And they've only got the Premier League to worry about. So I think fourth is between Man United and Spurs. So the first part of this question, do you agree with that? Or do you think, no, don't write off Villa just yet?
Yeah, I wouldn't write Villa off yet because I think they've had an unbelievable year under Emery. But the injuries are now starting to bite. And obviously living in Birmingham, I've got Villa fans and they're now panicking, you know. And funny enough, somebody texted me yesterday to say, I think I now feel like what you were saying in November when we had all those injuries. So yeah, I think Villa are starting to creak. And Agent Longley, and I remember saying to one of my friends, I says, look, how'd you find Longley? He said, oh, he's fine, yeah, he's back up. And as the weeks have gone on, he's come back to me saying, you were right about Longley. Their dip in form, and it's probably harsh on Longley, other players have contributed, but their dip in form starts when Longley starts playing in the league.
What a surprise. Oh, we didn't. You know, I never thought that would happen if Longley plays.
Exactly. So I wouldn't discredit them, but I think they are probably third out of them. I would say Man U are probably second favourites behind us. But I still think Man United have got that the temperamental squad. You know, they've got it. We are probably the most close-knit squad at the moment. Everybody seems to be pulling together. I think with Man U, it just takes one training ground hiccup, one bust up, and, you know, they have their side. So I think Man United might trip themselves up. So, yeah, I'd agree with us, to answer your question, I'd agree with us to finish fourth because we're getting the band back together. And the more minutes, the more games that they get, the better they'll become.
Right. Man United do have a track record of finishing seasons very strong, but Spurs have got a very good track record. When it's just a top four race and nothing else, we tend to get it. In a top four battle, Spurs have got a good history over the last 10 years of actually getting that fourth place. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out. Both teams don't have to play each other again. I don't know if that works in our favour or if it works against us, because we could either let them close the gap or it allows us to increase the gap, depending on how that result would go if that game was a fixture. Also, with regarding to remaining games, Villa, Man United and Tottenham, they've all got a lot of tough games left. In fact, the top 8 have all got to play each other pretty much one more time each. Maybe there's a couple of teams that have already played one of those games, but we've got to play Liverpool, City, Arsenal, we've got Villa away after Palace. Man United is the one that we don't have to play anymore. We've still got Newcastle and West Ham away. So we've still got big games, but so have they.
Yeah.
They've got big games as well. So I think that kind of irons itself out. The only thing I'd say, Matt, is about the run-in. We do have that period where we've got like 5 horrible games in a row, and they haven't rescheduled Chelsea away, which we always lose. And I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, if we did win it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we lost that again, but you never know. It's important for me now as a Spurs fan to see us open the gap, because it gives us that buffer when we go into that horrible patch. If we lose 2 or 3, okay, it eats into the buffer. It doesn't allow Man United to get past us. So we have to beat Wolves. And then going into Palace game, I expect us to clobber them. So if Man United were to drop a couple of points over the next couple of weeks and Spurs opened up a 9-point gap, that allows us hopefully to go into that kind of sticky patch with a cushion, and it gives us a fallback position. Is that how you see it as well, Matt? Or are you confident going into that difficult period that we're going to have?
Yeah, I think we're suited when teams come at us. We're suited. We're more suited. Sorry, when teams, it's you attack, we attack. I think we are better equipped to play that style of football when we've got our better players on the pitch. Sometimes my concern is when it's teams that kind of two banks of four and it's very cagey and we almost overcomplicate the pass. It gets very slow and we start tippy-tapping at the back. That's when I think we struggle. So I think probably going to come back and haunt me, but I think teams like Newcastle who are going to come at us, they'll be at home, they're going to come at us. I think Man City, I think they're going to come at us. Tough game, of course, but they're going to come at us. I think Liverpool, they're going to come at us if we get our better players on the pitch. I think Arsenal are going to come at us. I think we'll get our moments in that game to pick their pockets, as opposed to the games where it's very cagey. Everton, those type of games, I think we get a little bit repetitive in what we're doing and we run out of ideas at times, whereas you shoot, we shoot. I think everybody fit, barring Man City. I think we could beat anybody.
The one good thing in our favour is when we play Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, and Villa, they are going to be having to rotate squads because they're in Europe. We don't have to do that. We can get into some kind of a rhythm, some kind of a flow. And this is what I've been saying to a few other YouTubers.
Yeah.
I think what we're doing right now, Matt, we're getting the band back together. It's almost like pre-season again.
Yeah.
And I think the next game or two will be the last bit of the pre-season. The pre-season started 2 weeks ago. Got a couple more games. I think going into the Villa game, that for me, now it begins again. And I'm looking for Spurs to replicate something like the first 10 games of the season. I'm not saying we'll go undefeated, but if we draw 2 or 3, win 6 or 7, top four's out.
Look,
we might even end up third if one of the teams above us kind of gets an injury crisis and they just drop off the back of it the way we did. I think we won't get third, but I do look at it right now as, can we just get through the last couple of games and then boom, with 10 games to go, let's get into the groove again. I mean, how do you see it? Or am I being a little bit fancy?
No, listen, I
talk?
totally agree. I think, and I think most neutral fans will admit that when we've got our best 11, 12, we're a handful for most teams.
Yeah.
To caveat that, teams have now started to obviously work in the training ground, replay videos to see how we set up with the ball and without the ball. So they're getting smart, they're getting cuter to how we play. But I still think when we get our, better players on the pitch, I think we're a problem. But we've got the most points at this stage of the season for the last 5 seasons. So if you look at how stop-start we've been and, disappointment Everton, disappointment Wolves, fixture, we've dropped some silly points over the last couple of months, but we've got the most points since 5 seasons. So if you put that in its kind of position, if we repeat anything like the first 10 games in the last, how many games left? 14? How many games are left?
14 games, yeah.
So if we get anywhere near a similar points at the start of the season, which is a difficult task because of the fixtures that we got, I think we're more than a shout for 4th. More than a shout. If you put that on top of Richarlison is now contributing, before it was just Son, if you add Richarlison's performances and goals, why not?
These are the games on the weekend. And I'm thinking potential opportunities for us to get a bit more of a lead over our main rivals.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Villa's game away to Fulham. Fulham away is never easy. They're a difficult team to play against.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know any of the top teams that have gone away to Luton and had it their way. We scraped a 1-0 win. Arsenal needed a 97th minute winner. I think Liverpool drew. Liverpool drew their last minute winner.
Fortunate. They're fortunate.
And we're fortunate.
Yeah.
Man City, I think they scraped a 1-goal win there as well, if I'm right in saying. That Man United Luton game, right? That is no given. But and you know what? If Luton were to win it, I wouldn't be shocked. I think there's a potential draw here. I think there's a potential dropped point opportunity for Man United. And if that does happen, we have to beat Wolves. We've got to get 3 points against Wolves and take advantage.
Do you know, I said to you before, I said, that 3 points with 10 men, playing the whole second half with 10 men at Luton, at the end of the season, that will look a massive result. At the time, it was a gimme. Oh, it's only Luton. If you look back, that was a huge 3 points.
Yeah. They listen. They missed sitters galore. But was that the game where Richarlison missed like 2 or 3 chances, easy ones at the start of the game?
Yes.
Yeah, we missed some chances as well, didn't we?
I think we should have been 3-0 up after about 10 minutes.
Richarlison.
I think he had one where he didn't know whether to go with his head or his foot, and he kind of. It was an awful miss.
He went with his abdominals.
Yeah. I think he tried to chest it in us. It was an awful finish. But yeah, that now looks a huge result. So, Matt, tomorrow's game. How do you think the game's going to go? What's your prediction? Like I said, for me, these next 2 games we must win. Iggy was saying a couple of weeks ago, Brighton, Wolves, Palace, it's got to be 9 points. So we go into the next phase of the season with a bit of a gap, a bit of a buffer. I think it's going to be a very difficult game. I do like that manager. I really do. I think he's a very clever manager.
He's a good manager.
He's a very clever manager. I think we'll win. But I think it will be another topsy-turvy match. Wouldn't surprise me if we go 1-0 down. But I think at home...
Matt, do you know, sorry to interrupt, whenever I go to the games, the people around me always say this. Whenever we go 1-0 down, they're like, oh, finally. What do you mean, finally? They're like, no. Whenever we go 1-0 down, we always do well. Like, we want to go 1-0 down. I'm like, are we actually cheering the opposition for us to win a game? They're like, yeah. This is like the weirdest thing ever. We're cheering the opposition to go 1-0 up so that we can win a game.
It almost clears our mind. It almost, if should I, would I, could have, it's like we're 1-0 down. Put your foot to the pedal. So it's almost like it kind of makes your decision so much clearer. So it wouldn't surprise me if we went 1-0 down, and I'm even going to say the Wolves centre half, whose name escapes me, used to play for West Brom.
Centre half.
Very good from corners. Somebody in the chat. The centre half.
So the chat remind us. Because we're having a break.
It wouldn't surprise me if he scores from. There you go, Dawson.
Well done.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Hotspur 57. Let's give him a shout out. Well done, my man.
It wouldn't surprise me if he pops up from a corner and scores the first goal. But I got last week correct 2-1. I'm gonna say 3-2 to Tottenham.
That's my prediction. I was gonna go 3-2 Spurs.
Is that what you're gonna say?
I think it's 3-2. I think this is going to be a repeat of Wolves Man United, where it just went back and forth, and then in the last 5 minutes, just boom, everything happens. And I think we probably will go a goal down. Maybe we go 2-1 up, then Wolves go 2-2, crossbar, wonder saves, red cards, and then 5 minutes to go, somehow Spurs win it. I think that's how it's going to go. I don't think we're going to put in a brilliant performance. I don't think we're going to put in a bad performance. It's going to be one of those where it's going to be very similar to how we felt about Brighton. You know, we had a 15, 20-minute brilliant patch, a 50-minute weird patch, a 10-minute horrible patch, but we've got 3 points. And
do you know, I think he's an underrated footballer, Lamina.
Lamina's a good player.
I think he's so underrated. Honestly,
No, he's a good football player.
I mean, if you look at his CV, Juventus picked him up at about 1920, so you can see, you know, he had a really, really high profile. I know he ended up at Southampton, but he's such an underrated midfield player. Big, strong, very rarely gets dispossessed, keeps the game moving. I do like him, but yeah, I think it's going to be up and down, Stel. I think you're going to the game, so let me know what the atmosphere is like. But I still think that pill of that injury time winner last week, I think that will be enough. I think there's such a feel.
The atmosphere at Spurs at the moment is weird. Before kickoff, there's a buzz, and the first 10, 15 minutes of games, there's, you know, you can feel that the fans are behind the team. When we're not playing well and it gets a little bit sticky playing out from the back, or when we're getting it forward and we're being wasteful, you can hear the frustrations kicking in, and you can begin to hear fans just calling out players' names. And I almost feel like we need to be good on the front foot for the fans to really raise the level. And because we can't get, we haven't really gotten into that kind of a groove for a number of games now. The atmosphere is very up, down, and then it kind of gets this place where I'm like, let's just sit here and wait and see what happens then. And it just becomes a bit, it's not rubbish. The atmosphere is not rubbish. It's not toxic, negative. It's a good atmosphere, but it's not. There's an enthusiasm that's been a little bit eroded because of the way we've played the last couple of games. Well, not a couple of games, the past few months, you could say. It hasn't been that free-flowing. But do you think the first 10 games we kind of overshot ourselves in terms of expectations went too high for performance and results, and maybe we were spoiled with the way we just kept winning games and that kind of just made us feel a little bit, you know, we're winning, great, we're happy, but we're not really seeing that flowing one-touch, two-touch football we were seeing earlier on in the season.
Yeah, I think Stel. I think it was a combination of things. I think clubs underestimated us, how bad the season finished, the uncertainty with Harry Kane, the uncertainty about a new manager. I think it was a combination, and fans and clubs like Sony Spurs. And I think we sneaked up on teams.
Yeah.
We sneaked up on teams, and all of a sudden, habit. Winning's a habit, losing's a habit. And all of a sudden, it was almost painted by numbers. We were just going into games and we were just like, it'll be all right. Someone will get the win here. It'll be all right. We're going to get one here. So people putting their hands up and pulling out wins. You know, Van der Ven scoring against Luton away. You know, people were just putting their hands up and saying, I'll do it today. So it's a combination. I think all of a sudden we started to believe Sheffield United at home. You know, we started to believe that we can't be beaten. And I think when we did get that first bloody nose against Chelsea, I think that was such an emotional high to a low. And then the injuries on top of that, have I got that right? Was Wolves the next game after the Chelsea? Is that right? I think I'm sure Wolves was the next game after Chelsea. I'm pretty sure of it.
Let's have a quick look. That Chelsea game was definitely a turning point for us.
I'm sure Wolves away was the next game after Chelsea.
Yep, you're right.
Right. And I think we almost kind of went into that game thinking, oops, no Romario. No Romero, sorry. No Van der Ven. I think Maddison got injured in the same game. So we lost 3 players, and Adoji got sent off. So we lost 4 players in one game going into the Wolves game. So I think it was almost, we were concussed. It's like we were going into the match concussed.
The starting lineup was Vicario, Porro, Dyer, Davies, Emerson. So that's 3. Højbjerg, that's 4. Kulu, Son, Johnson. So that's 5. So we went into that game with 5 players that weren't the normal starters. So half the team. And on the bench, we had Brian Gill, Lo Celso, Bentancur, Skip Foster. Okay, the bench was pretty normal for us this season. That wasn't much different. Pretty much the same. That's when all the debates and arguments about Phillips. Yeah, Phillips. Yeah. Why are we playing Phillips? Why is Dyer playing? Don't let Dyer play. And that's when all that began.
So for me, that is the that was where the rot came in a little bit, and we self-doubted ourselves in matches, and we were hesitant on the ball. You know, we wasn't making ourselves available for a pass. Everyone was kind of playing in the shadows a little bit in the matches, and it spread. And then the opposition thought, we got these. That 1 and 2 touch that we were doing in the games before, it was 4 and 5 touches. Spaces were getting closed down. We couldn't get out. We're getting dispossessed all the time, you know. So that took a spell to reverse. So that's why now the mistake people were thinking was, it'll be all right once we get Maddison back, but they've got to get match fit. It's all right being fit, but they've got to get match fit. You know, patterns of play have to be reintegrated. That takes a period of time, you know? So the mistake was people thinking the first game back, we're all right. Man United, no, that takes, even though we played well in the game, that takes a few more games for that to flow, for it to wash through the squad. And players
You've got to get used to riding a challenge, taking a knock. You've got to get used to driving with the ball when someone's bearing down on you, trying to knock you off the ball or tackle you. Match fitness is completely different to cardiovascular fitness. Completely different. And you only get that in matches. So that's why the second injury for Bentancur is the problem, not the first injury, because that's a 12-month rehab. The second injury you haven't budgeted for. That's why now he looks a little bit clumsy on the ball. I think the second injury, it was a psychological blow more than anything else for him, because you've just worked your way back to fitness. You come back and then bang, straight away you're out again. Mentally, that's mental fatigue on your mind, on your soul. It's almost like, it's almost like you've saved up. You finally buy your house. You're moving in, the roof. Like, I've been waiting for this moment. I've been working hard to get this money, and the roof's collapsed.
And that's the thing, that it takes that. In Angie's system, there's no hiding place. You know, you could play in some teams and you could build your form, your fitness, your confidence differently. In Angie's team, you have to make yourself available for the ball. When Vicario gets it, he's rolling it out. You have to show for the ball. So, and because it's his DNA, Bentancur, he's a fighter, he's a warrior. He's like, give me the ball. So he's.
See, Matt, I kind of like that. Do you know why? Because he exposed players like Dyer. It exposes Ben Davies's pace. It exposes the forward line when they don't convert or create. It exposes players. And for me, I love that, because then you know who cuts the mustard and who needs to go. And it is that ruthless. Football, elite sports should be like that.
That's exactly it. So what Postecoglou was saying is, listen, this is how we're going to play, whether you're 25 or whether you're 35. If you play my team, you're going to play this way. So ignore the boos, ignore the groans when it doesn't go right. That's on me. But this is how you're going to play. So, yes, it cost us a goal last week. He showed for the ball, got caught. Van der Ven makes a tackle. It's a penalty. But couple of more of those occasions and he skips out the tackle and we breaks the press and we 3v3, the crowd will go, this is brilliant. But we have to go through that slight hiccup to
exactly
get into
what I
that
said.
space.
That that, my friends, is the process. There you go.
It's the process. And listen, at the time, I get it, the frustration, you get dispossessed, you're 1-0 down, you go, why? Just kick it 60 yards up the pitch. But if we asked for a change, which you and I and most fans did at the end of last season, we've got that change. And the fleas come with the dog, We're going to get a couple of hiccups.
In my eyes, Matt, we've only got the change if they invest and they recruit correctly in the summer so that we're not just a top 4 team again. If we remain a top 4 team as a result of recruitment decisions, then for me, nothing's changed. So I'm with you on phase 1, but phase 2 and 3, I'm not there yet because I need to see if I see Timo Werner at the club next year, if I see Højbjerg at the club, Højbjerg, then for me it's no, because the problem is if the Sessegnons, the Timos, the Højbjergs, if these players are still at the club, they will get game time. Something will happen where at some stage you will be called upon. And that's when it doesn't click. That's when the system breaks down. And that's when we're sitting here saying, I can't believe we drew to Everton. How have we drawn away? That's what's going to happen. And that for me means, yeah, I've been through this before. So I'm halfway with you, Matt. I'm halfway there. I'm not there
I tell you why I'm optimistic, Stal, is I think Postecoglou knows what he wants. Okay? He knows the profile of footballer. He knows the style of football that he wants at Tottenham. And he's got some players that can't quite do that consistently. Okay? And they'll fall by the wayside. Now, he's had 2 transfer windows. So in his mind, and in my mind, I'm thinking half full mentality. Just imagine if he gets a Højbjerg type football. And what I mean by that is a disciplined, defensively sound midfielder, but also athletic, can also get across the pitch, can also get up the pitch, can also thread a pass. So just thinking optimistically, what Postecoglou is saying, Højbjerg's fine. But I want more. I want somebody that can do what he does, but also do a little bit that way in the opponent's half. So just imagine if you get a 6 out of 10, which is Højbjerg, you give you 6.5 out of 10 every game. Imagine if you upgrade him and you get a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. And I'm not going to give a name because I haven't got a name at the moment. But what I'm saying is there are players out there that are not going to cost the earth that can do Højbjerg's role and more for equivalent money. That's why I'm optimistic.
Well, we're going to wait and see. This summer's going to show us everything. There is one quick comment I wanted to just grab, which was George saying, what about De Jong? Savage said he's not coming to us, no way. Shows you the mentality is shy. I think the issue there is, George, he's on £400,000 a week. Or 300. We're not going to pay that.
A lot.
Arsenal wouldn't pay that. Arsenal wouldn't pay that. And they're ahead of us on the curve. I don't think Liverpool would pay that. I think the only clubs that would pay that are Chelsea,
Man United.
Even them now, I don't think they can afford it. Probably City and United. So I think that's going to be the biggest issue. I personally don't think we're going to get De Jong anyway. I don't believe the rumours on that one.
No. I don't think he's the focus of where we need to spend our money. He's a great player.
He's a quality player though, Matt. Yeah, he's a great player.
Listen, he's a fantastic player. But what I'm saying is, if you've got a certain budget, again, I'm not going to put a number on that, there are other parts of that squad that need immediate attention, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, listen, Matt, I agree. We have these chats all the time on WhatsApp. So, Matt, want to say thank you to you for joining me again.
No problem.
To all the individuals who watch this show or watch it later on, smash a like, subscribe. If you like the show, every Friday 5 p.m. Matt and I, we just do a brief chat about the week at Spurs. It's quite a relaxed chat. You're all welcome to engage in the comments. And other than that, big game tomorrow. We have got a live show in the evening. I like to go a bit later on in the evening after match day. It's our Spurs v Wolves late night show, 9:30 p.m. UK time. Feel free to jump in on that one. I'm going to just keep it simple and say thank you for watching. Matt, I'll let you have the final say.
No, listen, thank you for the comments, whether you agree or disagree. Enjoyed the engagement and looking forward to many more shows like this. And for the majority who are Spurs fans, I think we all want the same thing, which is a better, more successful team. And just looking forward to tomorrow's game and hopefully 3 points in the bag. So enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and speak to you all soon.
Stay safe, people. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Hopefully we get 3 points. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. Come on, you Spurs.
The first game we look for, Robbie. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away. Tottenham away. When we got Tottenham away.